We are living in a time where many are crying out for revival, and rightly so. Man, our country needs it, our churches need renewal. But the danger is that we often want the results of revival without the costs of it. We often want the fire without the altar. We often want the power without the surrender, and the crowd without the cross. But revival, like real proper revival, is costly, and it never begins with convenience. And we often look back to the good old days, as we say, when the church was full, when it was respected and influential in society. And there were many blessings in that area, and God really did move during that time. But we also must be honest with ourselves that a lot of that influence was built on Christendom, a cultural Christianity that didn't always reflect the heart of Jesus. There was a social status of Christianity, but not always a spiritual substance to it. There was a structure, but not always surrender. And God is not going to call us back into that cultural power. He's calling us back to a real kingdom purity. And I want us to look at Judges chapter 7 and look at it through the lens of revival. It may seem pretty strange, but I want you to bear with me. Because Gideon starts with an army of 32,000 men who are ready for war. But then God says, nah, you have too many. We need to cut it back. And the reason is because if Israel won with that number, they could easily say that they did it upon their own strength. So God, he strips back the army and he strips it all the way down to 300 men. Now that's a drop of over 99%. Why? The answer is in Judges chapter 7 verse 2. It says, "Lest Israel boast against me and say, my own strength has saved me." So God made the army weak so his power could be seen. The battle belonged to the Lord, you see, and only the Lord should get the glory. And that's what a real revival looks like. A revival doesn't come out of the strength of the church, it comes out of the strength of God and his Spirit. So the church in our nation is in this kind of Gideon moment. We've been stripped all the way back. Our numbers are down, budgets are tight, volunteers are few, and the influence seems to be fading. But maybe, just maybe, that's not a sign of failure, but maybe a sign of preparation. So God may be reducing the church to the 300 so that when he moves, it will be undeniably him that's moving. He's stripping away pride, performance, self-reliance, so that his power can shine through a humble and surrendered people. And I also want to encourage some of the viewers today that are watching this, that revival is not just for the young and dynamic only. When we look back to the Welsh revival of 1904, history points to the prayers of a few elderly women in a small town whose persistent cries and prayers helped prepare the ground for God's fire to fall. So prayer is not limited by age or energy. So if you can't stand and preach, you can kneel and pray. If you can't run programs, you can still run to the throne room of grace. Every generation has a part to play. And another important aspect to draw out of this for the church to be prepared is that we are all called to be disciples and disciple makers. Making disciples isn't just for leaders, it's for all of us. Every Christian is called to first be a disciple, a follower of Jesus. But then every disciple is also called to go and make disciples. And every believer is called to pray. It's not just the intercessors, but all of us are called to pray. And something key that Charles Spurgeon once said, he said, prayer meetings are the throbbing machinery of the church. Without prayer, there is no revival. Without obedience, there is no harvest. And without surrender, there is no fire. So you don't need to be strong, you just need to be available. You don't need a big platform, you just need a willing heart. You don't need to have it all together, you just need to trust in the one who does. So let us not just pray for revival, but let us become the kind of church that God can revive. Amen?